Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Lawless podcast, and today we're joined by Tom.
Yeah.
And in this week's episode we're going to be discussing a vast array of things, and let's get into it. So Tom, just tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, yeah, I'm from part of the world I'm from Somerset, from southwest of England. I mean, I've grown up there. I grew up there, went off to boarding school, and now I'm here. I mean, I quite like riding. I ride a lot in my spare time. You know, I'm a country lad, really. I mean, I've always lived in the countryside. I quite like the city. I come up to London a bit, but I'm a country lad at heart.
Exactly. So what was it like growing up in the countryside for you then?
Oh, I mean, it was good and bad. There's always good and bad in the places you're at.
Exactly.
The good parts were it's peaceful. You didn't have to worry about like cars and shit like going past. You could get some rest.
Yeah.
But I mean, and also like animals and stuff, because I'm a big animal. I love it. It's like where I live, we've got like 250 sheep around
running about, a few sheep.
We've got horses, we've got dogs, and it's quite nice, like animals and that's. But the negatives of there are not many young people in the countryside.
I'd imagine, yeah.
It's kind of like old people who've retired and just come down. Yeah. I mean, there are probably like 3 people in the area.
Imagine if you didn't get on with them as well. You'd
Exactly.
be like, what do I do now?
It wouldn't be very good. I mean, luckily I do get on with a couple of them, and I mean, I ride with them quite a bit now. So I mean, that's what it's like. They're good and bad, but overall it's quite nice.
I do. Have you seen This Country?
Of course I have. Kerry and Curtin.
Kerry and Curtin. Does it any resemblance to that in reality? Or?
Oh, not really. Not really in my kind of village, because I mean my village, they're not really those kind of young people. It's mainly, as I said, like OAP sort of walking around the place.
Going about.
But I mean, it is funny, and I mean, I love watching it. I watched it all with my parents actually. They said, Tom, you got to watch this.
You got to sit down
and watch it.
Yeah, so my parents.
I love it so much.
Honestly, man, it's good. So yeah, like, how did you actually get into riding? Where did that start?
Oh, so my stepmom, she rode. Like my dad's side of the family, my granny, my granddad, and my great aunt and all that, they all rode.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like a family thing, really. And so I was how old must I have been? At like 3, I had my first little pony. She was called Pixie.
Pixie the pony.
Yeah, Pixie the pony. Oh. So I had her for a couple of years, and then I went on to another little pony. Oh. He was called Beetle.
Beetle.
Beetle. He's so sweet.
We'll get you to send me some photos of them, so to show the audience.
Yeah,
they'll love
them. I will. No, and then we were supposed to keep him as kind of like a life pet, and then
nice.
Then I came back home. Like, by the way, we sold Beetle. I was like,
what?
No,
you sold him?
No, exactly.
My child.
Exactly. And then after that, I moved on to one called what was he called? Oh, he was called. I think it was called Ray, and he had this thing called Sweet Itch, which was basically like eczema. It's like eczema, and so like he would
scratch really.
He would scratch, and it would really annoy him, and so we couldn't really hold on to him for that long. So we gave him to someone who could deal with it a bit better. And then after that, I had one called Todd. He was a really nice, like skewbald, which is like a sort of brown and white colouring. He was so sweet, and he was probably the best little pony I had. I had him when I was like 10, 12, and then after that. My stepmom and I, we went to Ireland. It was kind of like a little holiday, and as part of it, we went with someone who one of my stepmom's friends actually, and she like runs a yard and stuff, and so nice. She knows like contacts in Ireland. And I went around and tried a few. Came back with one called Tosca when I was like 12. He's a really sweet pony. He's a Connemara. He was really nice, and he's probably the one that my stepmom rides now. My sister, because I've got a younger sister. She's going to move up onto him. Yeah. And what I did on him was like, what did I do on him? I did some like a little bit of show jumping, a little bit of eventing, nice. British eventing kind of stuff, and pony club camps and all that. Which I haven't really done that since I was like 13. Yeah. Because didn't really have time. Chucked up to boarding school and all that.
Exactly. So like when you're young, you get started with a smaller pony, and then as you get bigger, the horses get bigger as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's generally how it works. Like how it works with ponies, like how you like measure them, you do it in hands and inches, and so like my I think it's anything over like, I don't know if I'm completely right with it, I think it's anything over like 14.2 is a horse.
Yeah, and below that is classed as
a pony.
Yeah,
nice. I think I'm right. if I'm wrong, don't shoot me, people.
Yeah. horse girls, don't come at him, please.
Exactly,
Okay.
please don't. No, but yeah. So it's that's kind of like how they're based on height. And obviously, when you're small, you're on a small one. You get up, and I ride for quite at home actually. Like I ride some like 16, 17 hand horses because I've got a good friend actually. I've known her since I was like 4. She's very good at riding. She went to like Royal International at Liverpool as a wild card and came 5th.
Wow.
So she's very good.
Very
she knows what she's doing.
Does, yeah.
And so I ride some of her, like she's on horses now, so like some of her 17 hand horses, which are quite big and they're very nice to ride. I mean, when you're walking, they're nice to ride until it's a gale, like and you're above the hedge line.
You're just up in the air, like what am I doing?
You just get the wind in your face the whole time.
Honestly, man. But yeah, so like, how would you choose like a horse? Like, how do you know this is the one, sort of thing?
Oh, well, I haven't really done that since I was like 12, but let me try to think back. You got to think first. You got to look at it. Yeah. Look at like the condition of it, like how if it's got any like issues, if it's got like obvious like issues with it. Yeah. And then it's sort of the muscle sort of conditioning of it. But you can improve that obviously by working on them, by riding them and doing all that. And then the next thing would be like their temperament. Yeah. You sort of go up to it and be like, is this horse going to kill me?
Yeah, it's going to fuck me off. Do me in.
Of course, they're an animal. They're very clever. I'd say they're probably one of the most. They're one of the most clever animals, and I'd say they're very noble. Yeah. They've got their own personalities and everything. So you got to. Obviously, you can't really work out his personality. So
you can't talk to it, can you?
Yeah, exactly. But you can get on it and sort of feel it and sort of feel if you can kind of feel if it's going to try and kill you. Yeah. Like when I can remember. As I said, last time I really tried it was like when I was 12. Yeah. And so I can remember getting on this mare, which was a female horse, in Ireland. Yeah. And I got on it, and it felt like it was going to kill me. Yeah. I'm in trouble with her. This Irish guy was just like, all right, go jump some stuff. I was like, okay. And I was sort of hanging on for dear life as this thing, and I just had control, but it was hard. Yeah. You know. And but with the one I had, I got on it and sort of. Straight away, sort of jumped jumped quite a decent sized stone wall, and I'm like, yeah, this one's good. And I went to a show on it the next day in Ireland. Wow. I mean, I fell off in the warm up, but it's fine. It's fine.
Feel about that. Yeah,
I mean, I think there's like a saying, like you're not a true rider unless you've fallen off like X number of times. I mean, everyone falls off. Exactly. Everyone falls off. It's all part of the experience. I mean, that's kind of how you pick one, temperament and conditioning and. If it's going to kill you or not.
Yeah, exactly. And there's that saying, isn't it, like getting back on the horse?
Yeah.
So always got to get back on the horse. Exactly. But like even literally when you fall off.
Exactly.
The horse.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose, it's just like people. If you just sort of train them to think, they can just chuck you off and then that's it. Yeah. You've got to get back on it and be like, nope. Actually, no. I'm in charge. You know.
Exactly. You're not riding me. I'm riding you. All right.
Exactly.
Exactly. Hopefully that soundbite never comes back. But yeah, we'll move on from there. Oh, right. So we've done our countryside. So we've done a bit of horse riding, and then bang, off to boarding school. How does that happen? What was the process of going from? So you went to normal primary school, did you? Or
I went to I'll go through my process. Okay, so I went to my local village school. Yeah. I was quite lucky. Like the local village schools, when I was there, they were quite small. They were Church of England kind of like nice little quaint little primary school. Yeah, exactly. I was there until like year 4, and then I went to a prep school. Okay. When I was in in year 4, year 5, okay. I was sent. It was a school called King's Taunton. Okay. So I went there until year 8, and then I took a few sort of entrance exams and like tests and things, and like because like it's kind of like a family thing to like get sent off to this specific school, and so we got so I did all these tests at like 10.5. Yeah. And it really stressed me out. I didn't get onto the A-list for this school.
So how does that work, A-list then? What's that?
So basically this school's Eton.
Bang.
And so basically how it works is like it's like 3,000 people apply for like 250 places.
Really?
So was
it even like the people who can like go there? It's still competitive even within that. Like
it's exactly because everyone kind of wants to go there, and there's like. Yeah. It's even more competitive now because it's more international than ever. Like there are loads of different like, well, I mean there are loads of different like cultures, and like it's quite a melting pot of cultures. Yeah. It's more diverse than you'd think. Yeah. Really. And so 3,000 people apply for 250 places. Wow. You get sat when you're like 10. So it's stressful as hell.
You're 10 years old, sat in there.
Exactly. You get sat down in front of this computer.
Yeah.
You've got to do all these tests and things. And I remember on one of the tests, I was sitting down on it, and I forgot to press the next button. So I thought I'd done it, and then I was just stressful. Like, and I was looking at the time. It was like there was 30 seconds. I was like, oh, God, stressing as a 10-year-old. As a 10-year-old, and then after you've done that, you get sat in front of like I don't know, like a member of staff who's at the school, and you have an interview with them, like a proper sit-down interview.
Yeah.
I mean, they're kind enough on it. But
you're only 10 years old.
Exactly,
exactly.
And then you've got that process, and then they send you like an email. You're on the A list, which means you've got a place. B list means you're on the waiting list.
Okay.
So if someone drops off the A list, you're
so
next
like
in line,
reserve sort of thing.
which is what I was on. I was on the B list.
Yeah.
And obviously someone must have dropped off, and I ended up going.
Nice.
And then it was a C list. I think that's just rejected.
Yeah. Sorry, mate.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's mad. How competitive that is, though. You wouldn't, because there's this sort of like assumption that you've got the money, you go. But obviously, it's not like that, as you've just said. Like.
Well, there's the certain aspect of like, obviously, like you've got. Actually, no. More than ever nowadays, I think it's like 60% of the people there are on some kind of like financial aid.
Yeah, so it's not.
So I think more than ever, that's less of a case.
Yeah,
but of course,
definitely.
there is still that.
Till some of
there's still like that kind of thing. I mean, you can't really get away from it with like big public schools like that. You can't really get away from
There's
that.
always going to be some.
There's always going to be some kind of culture of that. I mean, you can't really get away from it.
Of course. So obviously you went from the B list, then obviously A list, then you've gone to the school. So what was it like transitioning from this small quaint primary school into a massive sort of boarding school?
Ooh. Well, I mean, because I'd gone to this prep school in between.
Yeah, the prep school.
Yeah, it was still quite small. Like it wasn't. It's probably like 200 people in the entire school.
Yeah.
Going to 250 in a year.
Yeah.
And like it was basically the school was the town.
Yeah.
Town.
That was the whole thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you've got Windsor next to it, and then you've got the town of Eton.
A bit like Durham in a way, to be fair.
Much.
Yeah.
Like most people there are students or people who work there.
Yeah.
And I suppose the transition, it wasn't too bad because I'd been boarding a bit at this school, at this prep school, and so I'd been weekly boarding, so boarding in the week and going home over the weekend.
Getting a bit used to
getting used to it and getting used to the transition. And so I went there and boarded the whole time. And the thing is, what made it so good was the people there.
Yeah.
They're actually, because there's this stereotype of like stiff upper lip, like
all that sort of
I sort of look down at people and try and show things off. Of course, there were like one in every. So the way it works, like there are 25 houses, 10 people in each house. So in every year group, in each house there'd be like one person like that.
Yeah.
Most people were actually really nice and really open and really nice.
People.
Exactly, and that's what really made it so much easier to get into it.
That's so good.
And of course, you can't. It's always going to have that stereotype around.
It's always going to be there, yeah.
There are those people there, and you can't change that. But the majority of people there aren't actually like that.
No. But it's them small minorities within a group that get like, everyone's like this guy. But
and then, of course, you see people in power from there who are just like caricatures. Like you got Boris Johnson.
Like Boris, yeah.
Caricature. And like,
is he real? Like
exactly. Like you never know what he's going to say next.
No, exactly.
And yeah, so that of course that doesn't help.
And then people associate like actions of these sort of big figures who've gone to Eton and go, well, he's acting like that, so everyone there must be the same, right?
Exactly. And I mean, what was it when I first came here? The friend group I'm in, I didn't tell them for like the first 2 weeks, and they found out. Yeah. And they came up to me like, Tom. I didn't realise they were actually nice people that went there.
Yeah. What? You're actually nice and you went to Eton? What?
Yeah. And then there was another guy. I was wearing this quarter zip with the logo on my chest. Yeah. And this guy came up to me like, oh, I went to your school. And then the people all around were like, huh? You went to that school too? And you're actually nice?
Yeah, honestly, that's really weird.
So I think as long as you don't like blow it in people's faces, because obviously when I first met you, I didn't really want to say it because like obviously there are the connotations of it. And
no, exactly. It's the thing like just with sort of words, everyone believes, no matter what you say, it's just the connotations of them words. Yeah. Because if you say Eton to someone who's been to Eton, who've met everyone from there and thinks they're really solid blokes, then they're not going to have this sort of assumption. Yeah, exactly. To an outsider or someone who's just seen Boris acting like a clown on like Prime Minister's questions.
I mean, it's understandable. And
then going, that's what it is. They're going to associate, that sort of stuff with it.
It's completely understandable. And the thing is, though, I don't want to, because I went there and I enjoyed my experience there, so I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm ashamed of going there.
No, of course not. No.
But there are some people who like come here and like, oh, I
just slag it off a bit.
Like, I went there and I'm so ashamed to have gone there.
What? Yeah.
And I mean, and then you look on their Insta, like their entire personality is like, them in the school uniform. The uniform. Have you seen?
I've not seen the uniform. So again, Jordan will put a picture of the uniform on so we can have a look at that.
It's like they call it penguin suits.
Oh, was it like, one of them with that sort of like the tails and that?
Yeah, tails, exactly. You've got like,
and you have to wear that every day.
Yeah, you've got striped. So in the first 4 years, you wear like striped trousers. You wear like a it's a shirt and with a what they call it, like it's like a little bit of cotton that you flip up over.
Okay.
And then a waistcoat and a like a tail over the top.
Tails, yeah.
That's the first 4 years. Fifth year, you've got this thing called stick-ups.
Okay.
Basically, like if you're in like a position, most people are like if you've got like house captain of games,
some
like,
sort of like
keeper of a
role.
society, like secretary of a society. Yeah, exactly, some kind of role. You end up with a white bow tie and winged collar.
Okay.
So every morning you got to get that up, put the back stud in, front stud in, do that up, do up your bow tie. I can do a bow tie in my sleep now.
Yeah, you're just easily doing it, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And it's quite helpful around here when you're going around all these balls and things.
Exactly.
So you can actually tie a good bow tie.
I'd have no clue where to start, mate. So
it helps you stand out.
Yeah, exactly, man. That's so cool. So what was sort of like the day-to-day sort of routine of attending school? Yeah.
At school?
Yeah.
So, right, average day. You would, well, in my last year, there was like you'd usually have like chapel in the morning.
Yeah.
You'd have to like go to, or an assembly of some kind. But like because of COVID, that didn't really happen. So you'd like have chapel at like 8:20. Most people in the last year you don't have to go to breakfast, and like the first years you're kind of
forced into
like
it.
You're ticked off when you go there. Yeah. So for like the first 4 years, you go to breakfast at like 8, then chapel at 8:30. Last year, you get up at 8:50, have your lesson at 9, and it depends. In the like sixth form, like you'd have like maximum of like 3-4 lessons a day, minimum of like 1 lesson a day.
Yeah.
So it was quite chilled out. And so lessons would run from like 9 till 11:20. And you'd have like a 10-minute gap between lessons because, as I say, it's like a town. So you have to like around here, you have to. It's more spaced out than there.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a similar kind of vibe like that.
Yeah.
And so you'd have lessons from 9 to 11:20, and then you'd have this thing called chambers, which is basically like morning snack, and just like you just
chill out.
Yeah, chill out and socialise with everyone in your house.
Nice.
And then 11:45 lessons again, 1:15 lunch. And then depends on what time of year it is.
Yeah.
So in the winter you'd have sport in that sort of 2 till 4 slot.
Yeah.
In the summer you'd have lessons then.
Okay.
And then after that after your sport in the winter you'd have lessons until like 6, and then you'd have this thing called we called homework EW, extra work. Like there's a whole nother language. I can get into that if you want. There's a whole nother language
that's sort of like words
around the place. Exactly. And so you'd have that. And then you'd do your work in the evening at like 10, 11, and then if you wanted to go to societies like you'd have like dinner at like 7:30, and then societies 8:45 until like 11 or something. They got like they had one really good thing about schools. They could get big speakers in.
They could get
the name of the school. They could like, I'm trying to think. They had Eddie Jones in.
Wow.
At one time, and that was actually a really good tour on England rugby coach.
Exactly.
That was insane.
One to attend, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So daily schedule. It was. I mean, it kind of has to be because you've got a whole load of teenage boys, and if you don't control them and have something for them every hour of the day, it's going to be a complete. They're going to
go mental, aren't they?
It's going to be a complete shit show.
Yeah.
And I mean, towards the end, we had this thing called TAP, which is basically like the school bar. It was pretty much to just stop us from having a piss up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it didn't really stop us. But
no, it was like, go to this bar, piss up in there instead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're not going to do that if you've still got the other option as well.
Exactly. So I saw this thing. It's like called wall ball.
Wall ball. Oh,
yeah. What's that
game?
About? Wall game. What's that?
Oh, okay. Not many people actually play the wall game.
Okay.
Basically, as I said, there are houses.
Yeah.
They're the scholars. The scholars' house is called college, and it's the oldest house. Like it was founded in like 1440.
So it's the original one.
Yeah, it's the original. Yeah. It's the original.
Like, the castle of
Eton. Exactly. Yeah. And it's them against the Opperton houses, which are the other houses.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many are on a team. I've never played it. I've just watched it. It's the most boring. Yeah. Like they haven't scored a goal since like the 1990s.
Really?
Yeah. So it's played against this wall on this pitch called College Field, and they just shove good shove up and down the wall.
So how do you score a point then? How do you do that?
No one knows the rules. I mean, I think there's a door at one end and a tree at the other end, and you kick it against that to score a goal. And I think you can score points other way. No one knows the rules.
That's so weird.
I mean, there's another game that everyone plays called field game,
which
is basically, back in the day, so to speak, before football was a thing.
Yeah.
All the big they all had their own type of rugby had rugby, Eton has this one.
Yeah.
And so, it's basically a mixture of football and rugby. There are scrums.
Yeah.
But one side stands up.
Right.
So basically, you win.
They're
called bullies. They're called bullies.
Yeah.
And it's like football. They're all really weird offside rules.
Oh wow.
There's a thing called sneaking, thing called cornering, thing called
it's all these different specific rules.
Furking, and I kind of forgot most of them because it's so, no one actually knows all the rules.
There's just too many.
There's too many. It's basically like a mixture between cross country because so you've got bully players, and then you've got your backs.
Yeah.
Backs kick the ball back and forwards, and the bully players run in between them.
Yeah.
And that's like the main premise of the game, pretty much.
Nice.
It's like a more messy version of football, rugby, cross country. Like those all sort of rolled into one, really.
Wow, so it's so weird. What other sort of traditions are there that are quite weird? Do you think
traditions that are weird? I mean, there aren't really that many weird
interesting
traditions.
ones. Yeah.
I mean, there's the language of the place, as I said earlier.
Yeah,
you've got lessons called divs. Divisions.
Yeah.
Your teachers called beaks.
Beaks.
You've got, of course, you've got chambers, like the snack in the day. You've got, what else do you have? You've got there are so many. You've got you've got the thing called the bill, which is like if you've done something bad, you go see the lower master, who's basically like the deputy head. He's basically the deputy head, and they do something. There's a thing called tidy book. It's like if you're late to a lesson, you don't do your homework or something, you get tidy book and I mean, there's tradition. Yeah, there's the language of the place, which is completely different, and it's very hard to explain when
there's so many words.
It's hard to explain. I know what stuff means when I hear it.
Yeah,
it's just
to describe it.
To describe it is quite difficult.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So I don't know. What did you play any sport whilst you were there, or?
I did. Yeah, I mean, for the first few years, I was sort of doing rugby, hockey. I didn't really do any football in the early years, and then I went on to do rowing quite a lot. I was the language of the place is the years had a weird meaning. So I'll explain to you. When you're there in year 9, it's F block, and then it goes all the way up to B block.
So you call it a block?
Yeah, it's blocks like F block, E block, D block, and then it goes C block, B block. Then the A block I think is returners. I don't know why it's.
What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. So when I was in, what was it? E block, so year 10, I picked up rowing a bit, and so went with that a bit. I wasn't top tier, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, exactly. I enjoyed it, and I continued it until sort of lockdown, and then it kind of gave up and over lockdown. Yeah. And so I did that. I went to, what was it? We did all things. It was so much fun. We we went on trips to places we went to Spain.
Oh wow!
It was intense. Our head coach was the what was he? He was the Olympic coach. For Australia at Rio.
Wow.
I think he was one of their 3 head coaches.
So that's pretty serious.
Yeah, they take it serious. The top people, literally, they're all your height and built, and they've all got full scholarships to America now. Wow. To Yale, Harvard, and all that. Exactly. Oh, and then, so when we're in Spain, we'd row 60 kilometers a day.
Yeah.
It killed you.
60k.
Yeah, it killed you.
Yeah.
It's so intense. Yeah. It was so intense, but I loved it though. And I mean, we went on a trip to Edinburgh. It was pretty much. We had 3 training sessions a day. We'd do
3 a day.
Yeah. So we'd get up.
Wow.
We'd walk to this place, which was we were staying in these kind of apartment kind of complex, 3 to each apartment, and we'd walk to the uni rowing gym up in Edinburgh, which was a 40-minute walk. So that was basically it wasn't really
warm up.
It wasn't really warm. It's a warm up to the warm up.
Yeah, the pre-warm up.
And then we'd do 3 by 30-minute ergs or a 2k test or a 5k test. And then we do stuff which is quite. That one wasn't the most enjoyable bit because you're static and on an ergo. It's not the most fun thing. And then we'd do stuff there's this place up in Edinburgh called Arthur's Seat, which is quite a big touristy kind of place. All the students go up there and take pictures. And so we had this thing. We were split up into groups of 4.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of like a race to the top.
And
the thing is, you could only stay with your slowest person. So it was like a team building kind of thing. And I found that quite fun. And then we went on like a 25 mile, like a marathon, basically a marathon hike, which was it was.
That's after doing all this other stuff as well.
Yeah. It was fucking tiring. Thing is, when you're doing it, you kind of not just doing it for yourself. You don't, because you're in crews of like
you've got your other men in the crew.
You're doing it for them, because if you give up, you fuck them up as well.
Yeah.
And well, like the races we went to, like we had like head of the Trent. We went up to Nottingham and did that. Nice. We went to like schools head up down in London. We had the NSR National Schools. I mean, like as I said, I was never a top tier athlete. I was in the Colts B, so like was it GCSE like that year, sort of the B crew for that.
Nice.
And that was so much fun. Like we broke the record by like 6 seconds. We had such a fun time together. We that was so much fun. And then in the next bit, like I was third 8, like verging on second 8. I don't think I would have ever gotten to second 8 that year. And then I kind of just gave up and it filtered out, and I didn't really want to do it because it takes up so much time.
Exactly. But yeah, man. So like being in that all male environment, like sort of, what was that like, and what sort of effect do you think that's had on you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I'd never really thought about that until now.
No.
I mean, it's quite a. I wouldn't say it was like, because when you think about an all male environment, you could think about like toxic masculinity and that kind of thing.
All that sort of stuff. Yeah.
But we never really had that.
That never really was a thing.
I mean, there were some people who obviously like
threw the weight about
it, but it was, I don't know. I never really thought about it a bit. I mean, like, it wasn't that bad.
No.
I mean, it would have been nice, to be maybe have gone to a mixed school.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that bad, because at the end of the day, you're with your mates having a laugh 24/7.
Exactly.
So it was,
that's sick. Right?
yeah, exactly. And so it didn't really matter that much when you were there. You never really thought about it at all. And I don't know, like, I suppose you went to a mixed school.
So I went to it was really weird. So I went to a grammar school.
Yeah.
So there was 2 schools, but the 2 schools came together, and it was a boy and girls school. But now it's a mixed school, and the lower site's on one site, which was the old boys' school, and the upper site's the girls' school building. And at sixth form they're mixed as well. And then I went to a sixth form, a different school, which was all boys up to sixth form, but then was mixed at sixth form. So I went to schools that were both traditionally single sex, but when I was there wasn't. And when I was in like year 10, when I was in year 9, all of my core subjects were all boys. And so everything was all boys. And then when I moved to year 10, your core subjects were all boys, single sex, and then your sort of optional ones were mixed. Okay. So it's kind of weird, but you had the girls in the school, but they weren't doing lessons with you. So it's kind of weird, yeah. It's a weird little mix. It's a weird
concept.
Mix, I know. And I think that the way they sort of sold it was sort of the best of both worlds, because you had the girls were at the school, so you obviously saw them like breaking lunch, but in lessons it was just single sex. So it's kind of weird, yeah. But it was interesting,
I mean, the way they did it with at school was like, obviously the whole campus was like it was obviously quite male dominated.
Yeah.
But you had like there were quite a lot, like the lower masters female, like loads of English teachers.
So there were female figures within the school.
Like, probably not quite half the staff. Like the staff wasn't very representative, like of a sort of female body. Like there was some, like the physics department didn't have a female member of staff. Whereas like the English department was mainly female based.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So I mean, it was probably like 60-40, like that sort of makes 60% men, 40%. So you had sort of female figures around. And what they did really tragic thing in like the lower years, when you'd have like socials with all girls schools. It's the most tragic thing.
And everyone would just be in the corner, all the boys one side, all the girls the other, just standing there.
Like, as you can imagine, like awkward, like
what's that over there? Is that
like
a girl?
13, 14-year-olds, awkwardly, like
bit of puberty going on,
year 6 disco vibes.
Yeah.
And that was tragic. I think I went to one and was like, no. It's just tragic.
They're playing Bob the Builder again. I don't want to be here. Exactly, I'm going home.
Exactly, that kind of vibe. Yeah. And that was just so tragic.
Honestly, but yeah, no. At my school for sixth form, we had a similar sort of thing, because there was a girls' school equivalent of the school. So for them, it was like the sort of disco thing, and it's sort of like trying to force that. Look, they exist. Talk to them. And I was like, what do I do?
Yeah, God, exactly. I mean, like, the thing is though, like, you do the most socialising I found, like, outside of school.
Yeah, like clubs and stuff, just going out.
Exactly. I mean, like, because I've got lots of mates in London, so I'd go up to London a lot. So I had kind of the best of both worlds. City life, well, not really much of city life. I mean,
when you wanted it, it's there.
Exactly,
sort of
when
thing.
I wanted it's there. Yeah. And then I had the country, like the peaceful. I'd go back to it, and I don't know. Like, I think I kind of want to live in the city when I'm older, as a result of like going up there and seeing it all. I mean,
Exactly.
London's an amazing place.
Amazing. Exactly. It's a big place, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like what is it like? Yeah, my mates live all very centrally, so it's ideal whenever I go there.
So you can see them all at sort of once.
Exactly, cool. And like sort of hop around the houses, and so one night here, one night there, one night there, and they're all pretty much half an hour away from each other. It's perfect.
It's ideal, mate. Yeah, nice one. So I don't know if we just go on from sort of. So we've finished Eton. Obviously, we're applying for Durham.
Yeah.
Lockdown. Explain, what was lockdown like for you?
Lockdown was cooped up. I had to self-isolate twice because at school, like I'm sure your school had a similar thing where like you had like your close contacts thing. If you're a close contact, you had to self-isolate.
Like, it pinged you, didn't it, sort of thing?
It pinged me, got sent home, didn't have COVID. And the guy who got pinged didn't have COVID.
But you still had to do the 2 weeks, even though you've clearly got evidence that the guy who's pinged you didn't have it. What?
I know, it was a weird one, but I just had to do that. And then I actually got COVID.
Oh.
So it was quite funny. Everyone had I was sort of in my room. I went to basically there was in each house there was a matron. We'd call her the dame. That's another bit of like Eton.
Bit of slang.
Eton, well,
yeah,
Eton lingo. So went over to her and was like, I've got this like little cough.
Oh no!
And she was like, it probably isn't, because like the COVID symptoms like coughing 20 minutes out of an hour.
Yeah. And
I was barely coughing, but I was like, I may as well self-isolate anyway.
Yeah.
Got a test. Oh. Came back a couple of days later. The housemaster came up to me and was like, Tom.
Tom, mate. Yeah.
Got COVID.
And the dame's like, oh.
And then so my dad had to come up and shove me in the back of the car, all windows down. It was like mid-December.
Just freezing the way down the motorway. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It was, and then so I got home, chucked up in my room, obviously
locked the door. Sort of
exactly, chucked in my room. Meals brought up and paper plates.
Yeah, I did that. So, a little take on the tray.
Yeah,
sort
it was
of thing,
like prison vibes, and then chuck everything in the bin.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of one part of it, and the other part, I mean, in the countryside, it was kind of lonely. Can't lie.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Can't lie. All I did was, like, I'd sort of wake up in the morning, flip the laptop up, put my camera off, fall back asleep. I think that's everyone's.
That was the routine, mate. Yeah,
that was everyone's experience. It's such a weird experience.
Yeah,
like just barely leaving your room the whole time, sort of not being able to. Like, well, I mean, I could go outside because I was quite lucky because I lived
right in the doorstep.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like most people, just staying inside the whole time. It's
depressing, man.
I don't like that. I don't like staying inside, and so I would try and ride as much as I could.
Why not, mate? It gets you out, doesn't it?
It gets out. Well, I mean, it's obviously a stressful time for me. It's so good for like stress relief and everything.
You need something to do, some sort of release.
It's so much fun. Like one of my neighbours, one of my mates, she has like a couple of ex racehorses. So much fun.
Exactly, mate. Speed of them.
Yeah, going around her farm, galloping it.
Ooh, bit of speed, bang.
It's so much fun. I mean, lockdown for me was pretty much just riding, and I mean, it was quite it was difficult for everyone in different ways, but we all got through it.
Exactly, mate.
And so character building, if anything.
Character building, bang, yeah. Because I remember where I was last year, because I got sort of a memory come through on my sort of Snapchat, and I actually went to Brighton. Because me and my mates, we were like, let's go Brighton. So I just got in my car and just went down there, and it was so weird because like. We weren't even allowed to. I wasn't even allowed to see my friends. That's mental, isn't it?
No,
like,
it's so weird.
I was in Brighton, and like it's obviously a massive city, and there's nothing's open.
Ghost town, mate.
Like there's a few people on the promenade, but that was it. And it's like, what?
I remember, what was it? Going into London, like in the period between lockdowns.
Yeah.
Going into there, and that was so much fun. Going around like Hyde Park and places like that. We're just having a piss up outside.
Nice.
And it was just the police vehicles patrolling.
Yeah, because they were so like anal about everything, weren't they? Just driving about like.
Yeah, but they were quite chill. I mean, they came up to us, had a conversation, and were like, counting you, like if there were more than like, was it 15 or something in groups?
Like then it was 6, wasn't it?
Then
It's
always changed.
Yeah, kick that. Oh no, 10 again now. Wait, Jimmy, do you want to join us? Right, come on, mate.
Exactly.
6 again. Fuck off, like.
Yeah, and I mean that was quite a fun period of time.
Nice.
That was quite a fun one. But yeah, I mean, lockdown was hard for everyone. It's fingers crossed they don't put us in another one. Have you seen that? Like, have you seen them? Because it's spiking again.
Yeah, mate. Let's just hope not, because that would be really annoying. To be fair,
I don't think they could. I don't think anyone really wants it.
No, bit of a revolution. What? Who said that? So yeah, like obviously moving on from that a little bit. So let's talk about a little bit about like relationships for you. Maybe that'd be like on a friendship level or sort of more intimate level. What would you say makes sort of like a good relationship?
A good boy Well, like
boy,
partner,
girl,
partner,
boy,
partner,
whatever
partner,
they, yeah,
partner, kind of, yeah,
partner.
partner. Ooh, well, I don't know. I mean, first of all, obviously, you've got to have physical attraction. You're not going to go up to someone if you don't. I mean, like people always say personality or looks.
It's not a dichotomy, it's a false dichotomy, isn't it? It's not like that.
You don't go up to someone you're not attracted to.
Yeah.
So obviously, it
has to initially exist.
Looks at first are more important, and then personality is what keeps you there.
Yeah.
So they've got to have something about them. You've got to have something. You've got to have at least 3 or 4 things like you're both interested in.
Yeah. Some sort of mutual common ground.
Yeah. Otherwise, you look at them like, what are you doing?
Like, what am I going to talk to you about then? Like,
exactly.
No common ground.
So you've got to have that.
Yeah.
And I mean, not psychotic.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a good little thing, isn't it?
I have it seems to be a weird thing of attracting psychotic.
Oh,
girls.
mate, what's going on?
I know. Oh. I know. And so those are like the core things. And of course, I mean, someone you can like just tell anything to.
Yeah, someone like they're not going to judge you either as well.
I mean, what a relationship is? It's your friend, first of all.
Yeah.
It's your friend, and like, you need someone who you would be friends with.
And you can
anyway.
trust as well.
Yeah,
right?
you need someone you're a friend with them, and then obviously there's like the physical side of it too. But before that, you've got to have a friendship. You've got to have like some kind.
That's sort of the foundations of where it's built, isn't it? You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
It sounds like getting to know each other, and then from there it can sort of like progress upwards if that's necessary or appropriate. You know, because if you know you could look at them and be like, I really like you as a friend, then that's sort of fine. Now, obviously, you know, let's just think about this. We're going from not knowing someone to a relationship, the sort of process that would kind of happen. Sort of like you meet them, you know of them, some sort of initial spark interest sort of thing. And then, as we previously discussed, maybe there's a bit of physical attraction there. Sometimes it can literally just be, I really like your personality, but that's sort of a minority of occasions. Yeah. Because like the traditional places you're going to meet someone is an environment where conversation's quite limited. Sort of like a club. Exactly. You can't go, oh, I bet that person has a wonderful personality when the music's so loud you can barely hear yourself think.
Exactly.
Like it's not possible.
Hence why it looks.
Exactly. That's the thing that goes, okay,
anyway.
You know, bang. Or maybe they're wearing something. It's like, oh, they're wearing sort of like this football team or this thing that I'm interested in. Maybe that's the sort of initial thing. And then, you know, you go over there and be like, bang, give it a chat sort of thing. Yeah, it's so weird as well because like, if you're not in the mood to do it, sort of like chat with people, you're just not going to do well. Or like if you sort of your energy's not right, it's just energy's so sort of, you can tell. First time you meet someone, mate, 5 seconds, you know, is this good? Is energy good or bad? And you know, you don't even have to say anything, mate. You can just be there. Your presence, there's the energy. You just know, you know.
You know what? For me personally, I'm terrified of initiating things.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really crap at it. It's something that I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get there. To be honest, it's just not who I am. I mean, if I'm I can't really be like, oh, there's a girl over there that I like. She's good looking. I can't go up to her and be like, because I'm so scared of being like
rejected.
It's not just that. It's just like
what could happen.
Well, yeah, exactly. You go over there and she I don't know. She like looks at them like in disgust and it's like no. I'm just so terrified of that. And so for me personally, I love a confident girl who's
willing to like sort of come up to you.
I don't know. Maybe if you're outside having a chat and smoking air, it's like ask you for the lighter or something, and then you
classic
can start
line.
Exactly. That happens so often.
Yeah, that's
it's the classic like go-to for it seems for anyone, doesn't matter.
In the smoking area, mate. That's it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just something that's so like I can't force myself to be like, I'll go up to them like, oh, do you want a drink or something, or like it's something that's so it's just I don't know. I just find it quite scary. Yeah. It's something that's. It's just not really who I am. I'm more of a sort of, I don't know, sit back and if people come up to me, they come up to me, and I completely respect them for that. Yeah, it takes because obviously it takes a lot of balls to come up to someone. Yeah, and obviously my balls in that department aren't exactly aren't the fucking they're not the hugest.
Not space opera size,
Exactly. Taken out of context, that'd be quite
another little line there. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a difficult thing when you for everyone. And
I know it's hard, man, especially like because no one's socialised properly for a few years because of lockdown, and then to go from no interaction to expected to meet so many new people and then talk to people. Yeah. I think there's this thing that I've read, it's like in sort of psychology called the 5-second rule. It's like if you see someone who you want to speak to, if you have any sort of doubt in your mind, or you're like, should I? 5 seconds, no, you're not going to do it. because the anxiety and fear that comes from our sort of like tribal brain. Because imagine if you're in a tribe of 20 people, you're dependent on that tribe for status and for food and stuff, basically. Because if you get rejected from that tribe, you're then sort of kicked out, exiled, and then you're on your own in the wilderness. So your mind's like, okay, I've got to be very careful what I say, who I talk to, because otherwise then I could get kicked out of this tribe. Because your mind's still a tribal brain.
Yeah.
So that's why you get this sort of massive anxiety, along with many other plethora of psychological and philosophical reasons. But that's the sort of main things. If you don't take the action within the 5 seconds, whether this be sort of like, oh, that's a person in my sort of lecture who a good friend could be, possible mate, or a possible girl you want to talk to. If you don't do it in the 5 seconds,
then you're done.
You're done. You can't think too much as well.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. You just got to do it, mate.
I'd say I'm quite a people person. I
definitely.
Like going out and meeting new people. That's why I was like, when you first like said, "Oh, do you want to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, why not?"
Yeah, let's do it.
It's a way of meeting people.
Exactly. It's cool.
Doing stuff. Yeah, exactly. And you've got a lot of passion behind it. So I thought,
yeah,
may as well do it. It'd be fun. But like when it comes like romantically, I don't know. I don't know whether or not it's to do with like past relationships and things, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, I've sort of got to a point where like, I don't care too much about that kind of thing, and I think that's probably like the best place to be, maybe, because then you don't work yourself up, you don't get stressed up about things.
She's not responded. She's opened the message.
Exactly. You don't get. I'm the worst at responding. Literally, even to my mates, I can often leave my mate on like delivered for like a week, and they go back and think, oh god, and then it gets to the point where it's just you get to it, and then you think. 3 days, I'll reply later, and then it gets to the point where it's embarrassing. When
it's embarrassingly long to respond.
And then you just open it
or leave it.
You keep thinking that I should respond, but it's embarrassing if I respond now. And
then
it gets to the point where the message is. I really need to stop doing that. Really, it's not
respond to your messages, Tom.
Exactly. If we can get anything out of this,
Tom responds to your messages.
It would be an idea.
That's the bottom line. Bang. But yeah, man, you just touched on the sort of impact of past relationships. Personally, myself, I think they have a massive, massive impact. Because also it shapes your perception of what a relationship is. Yeah. Because let's say you had someone who was not the best to you, you could then, if you have never experienced anything else, you could think that's normal. And if you never speak to anyone about it, what your girlfriend doesn't do X, Y, Z, and then someone else goes, no, that's not normal, mate.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you mean it's not normal? That's all I've known, and that's what I think what it is.
And what was it? I going around like talking to girls and like things like there are things like their ex-boyfriend may have said to them like. Relationship is all about sex or something like that. Yeah, but it's not.
No,
and you just thinking this, like you've been abused there.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
It just sticks in your mind. It's like you feel so sorry for.
You've been through that. Fuck yeah.
I mean, for me, with I've been in like one serious relationship in my time.
Yeah.
And at the time, my mates were literally just like, Tom, like, come on, why can't you see these things that are going on?
Why can't you see what's going on?
Exactly.
Because you can't see when you're in it.
You're blind.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at them and you think, oh, like I really like this girl. Like this is something that this. It's more the idea of them than what they are. The idea of what you could be.
Yes.
Then you just get so blind to it, and it's I don't know. It's something. That's probably why, like right now, as I was saying earlier, like when you stop caring, that stops. It's more of a defense mechanism, really, because if you care about things too much, then you get hurt by them.
Yeah.
And like if you're I don't know. I don't really know how to say it, but like, if you don't get hung up on things as much, and it's just so much of an easier place to be. Really, it's just not caring too much.
Exactly, man. I think from speaking to a lot of people like here, or some of my friends who used to not have any, used to not be very good with girls, and now they've just gone. They're carefree, but also very attentive at the same time. So it's like I'm free from outcome. Like I don't care if you do it or not. Like if you want to talk to me or not, however, I want to be all in. So it's kind of a weird sort of dichotomy there, but it's like you want to do it, like you want to become friends with people, but at the same time, if you're not, it doesn't matter to you.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, my whole thing is like friends first. So like as I said earlier, like when you're in relationships or friendships with like lots of other things around them.
Yeah, with more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They are your best friend at the end of the day, and like so you go into things like wanting to be. Well, I like as I said, I'm a people person, so I go around talking to people, trying to make friends with people, and then if anything else happens, it happens.
It happens, but there's no sort of intent there. It's just like it happens if it happens.
Exactly, and that I think that's how it should be.
Yeah, man.
Otherwise, because you get people who, I don't know, I don't like sort of pick me people. It's the most infuriating thing.
Yeah.
Like you go around like sort of telling girls, oh, by the way, we're gonna be in a relationship in like 2 months or something. It's just creepy. And
it's like, what do you mean? Why are you saying will? Like,
exactly.
How can you know that? It's
yeah.
That's not how it works.
Exactly. And like using, what was it, like puppy eye emojis and it's not something that, not for me.
No,
not for me personally.
Either, mate, not for
not for me personally. And then you've got the other side of it. You've got like the girls who are like all for the lads. I mean, that's fine to a certain extent, but when it's like, I don't know.
It's just needy, isn't it?
It's needy.
In a way.
I mean, I think it's a bit of a red flag as well.
Because if that at that early stage, if they want so much attention, then what's that going to say when you're in a committed relationship?
Exactly. And I think a lot of it about that thing, about like being a pick me boy or like wanting the attention, it's all about like, I don't know, doubting yourself. Maybe I think I
need the constant
don't know.
validation.
Obviously, like I don't know what goes on in other people's minds.
Yeah.
But it must be something to do with like doubting yourself, having some kind of, I don't know, maybe body dysmorphia, needing that validation from other people. And it's I think it's more of a deep rooted psychological issue in people rather than actually being, being a pick me. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know how to put it other than
I'm
that.
not just a pick me. Yeah.
I have deep rooted psychological issues.
Yeah. I have stuff going on. I'm not just wanting your attention for no reason. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But I think like so what you kind of take from that is just everything people do comes from somewhere. Like, it all comes from something. It's like where it comes from.
Yeah.
And I think when you understand that everyone's got stuff going on and everyone's just suffering from shit that's happened in the past, you know, you can kind of be more understanding and empathetic. And as I talked about like last week in the podcast as well, like just being caring and like loving people, but doesn't have to be. That's what's so fucked up is people associate sort of love with sex, and that's all it is to them. Making love,
that's just that.
No, it's like there's so much more. It's so much more emotional. So much more stuff's involved, but like it's just so been like washed down and lost.
There are lots of different types of love as well.
Exactly.
I mean, you can love your mates.
Yeah.
You're not exactly having sex with the mates.
No,
well, I mean, some people might be. I don't know, but
what happens in the boarding house stays in the boarding house, mate.
I know. Yeah, like, and then there's love with your family, and
exactly.
There's lots of different love.
Very different
and
stuff,
then like, it's a very individual, like between people. It's a sort of person to person rather than
it's
just
a very personal
concept,
thing.
rather than a concept thing. So I don't, there must be like unlimited amounts of love, really, all the types of love, because
how
it's
it works
personal basis.
Yeah.
Exactly, and like each one is slightly different. Like you love your mates for, I don't know, for them like being there for you, or they're being, I don't know, like my best mate from school and like from before. Like, I love him for being there for me, and for. I mean, we had like some shared interests of like rowing. I mean, I don't know, like he. Other than that, there wasn't really much of like common interests. But like, if someone's there for you at your lowest, when you're that makes it so much deeper, and makes it sort of connection between friends, or a connection between sort of lover, or a connection between someone so much deeper. And that's why I'm saying like it's like love is kind of like a person to person thing rather than a general concept.
Exactly. So that's where people can get things wrong, is because they get this sort of Disney sort of love. Oh, it's just man saving the woman. This is how it should be. Like, no, it's not. It's what you want it to be, and how it is between you and an individual. Not this sort of like it has to fit this narrative.
Yeah, it's what you make of it.
He hasn't taken me to Winter Wonderland in Hyde Park. He must not love me. Like it's so broken. It's like
maybe if he doesn't take you to Winter Wonderland, it's because it's expensive as hell, and he's sensible with his money,
and he's saving his bread so he can have a better life.
Exactly.
Exactly. And also, like you got to see like as well how sort of media and sort of companies in general steal these pure sort of words and connotations to sell products. So you see like the adverts for like perfume, and it's like the man kissing the woman. It's like imagine like a maths equation. You've got man plus woman in love equals love, but they're going man plus perfume equals love. Equals get the woman and get the love. So they're putting their product in between what the person is and what they actually want.
Well, the thing is, people are motivated by what they want, and people, I don't know, like people want pleasure. People see sex as a way of getting pleasure, and so you put those two together, stick it in an ad, it's going to sell. Sex sells. That whole thing, like sex sells.
Bottom line.
Which is, I don't know, it just seems so inherently wrong.
Yeah.
But it's true, because we are as individuals. I'd say personally, from my opinion, we are motivated by pleasure or by pain.
Yeah, avoiding pain,
and getting pleasure. Yeah. And like sex is like seen as like a quick fix of pleasure, and it's like it's just, for me personally, it's well, obviously there's pleasure involved.
Yeah,
but, you can't say it's not. You can't say it's not.
A bit of pleasure involved, mate. Yeah.
I don't want to be like, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
not just that.
You can be like,
that,
you're friends with them as well, and that's like something else, or you want something to progress, and there's something else there.
So it builds something more sort of like, you know.
But that's just for me personally. I mean, I'm not bashing anyone because casual statements.
Do you, mate?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you? Exactly, man. It's really interesting. So, just to sort of realise that everyone has something different, but it's all valid and good. As long as you're both happy and consult other people about what goes down. If you think this is a warning sign, this is a bit weird. But everyone must go through this. But ask people and check with your mates. Like, is them doing this thing normal? And then if it goes, no, mate, that's really fucked up. What is going on? Then you got to go, shit, what do you mean? And you sort of like work it out, and you're like, wow, that's mad. Yeah, but you can only, if you don't ask them questions and consult your mates and ask people, then you're never going to get it.
Yeah, that's why having a support network around you is crucial.
So important, mate.
I mean, I don't think I go to my family about that. It'd be a bit of an awkward conversation going to your dad, like, Dad.
Yeah, Dad, she used the carrot on me, what? Oh, God. Yeah, it's like you couldn't have that sort of discussion, mate, could you?
Getting around and having friends, like, and having like a deeper connection with your friends as well.
Yeah.
Like, you get that by seeing each other at your lowest, going through shit together.
Exactly.
And having
that up as well.
Exactly. Character building.
Character building. Exactly. So just to move on to something a bit lighter there, a bit lighter. So if you could recommend a book or a film, what would it be and sort of why? I
mean, I kind of thought I wanted to do a bit of anthropology when because I took like an anthropology option at school.
Nice.
I thought it would be interesting. It is interesting. Anthropology is an interesting thing, but I kind of changed my mind last minute here. I was going to do anthropology as one of my modules on my course here. I changed my mind. Didn't really like the look of any. I liked the look of one of the modules, but you had to do two of them.
Oh, right, to do it. Yeah.
And so, as a process of sort of think that preparing for uni, I love it if I wrote it. No,
my book, mate.
I know. I read Yuval Noah Harari's *Sapiens*.
Oh yeah, I've read that. Yeah,
it's an amazing read. I read it first when I was like 12, and then kind of read it before because I put it in my because I applied to Cambridge, so I put it in my personal statement. And I think
I put that book in
there as well. Exactly. That's like the generic.
Everyone's got it in.
That's probably why I was rejected, because it's sort of generic.
You're Harari *Sapiens*. Oh, okay.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice if mentally. It'd be nice if it wasn't because I had a shit interview.
Yeah, it's not because of that. It's because it's book.
No. So that book, and it was like it really, like, because there's a whole section of like religion in it.
Yeah.
And before, like, because I went to like Church of England school, I went to a prep school where there was chapel service every Thursday, and obviously at school there was chapel pretty much every day, and then chapel service on a Sunday. I mean, you kind of forced religion down your throat. It's like shoved down your throat.
Yeah.
And I'd say, like, my parents are slightly religious. I mean, go to church like Christmas, Easter. I mean, that kind of
major sort of events. Yeah.
And so I'd say up until I was like 14, I was quite religious, and like this book had a profound effect of like me like switching. Like, I was doubtful.
Yeah.
I was doubtful because I was thinking, like, obviously, like, how can there be so many bad things in the world for that? And what it was for me was like talking about religion in this book, and I think it was something about like talking about like religion of like early religion and tribes and things, about how like and how there were so many religions before. And I was thinking, if like a god, if they were like a good god and like an actual like I don't know, deity who cared about humanity, they'd be there from the beginning, because like humans have been around for like 1 million years.
Yeah.
Christianity,
if not longer.
Exactly. Yeah. Christianity's been like 2,000 years. Judaism, like 3,000-4,000 years. And then like Islam, I think is like 600, like 1,000 years. I think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm not an expert on it. And like, why come into the world then and not at the beginning? And why these religions and not like the early religions? Because they're. If you're going to think about it, maybe the first one was right, and because that was the first one that came up. And you can't, if you're going to pick one, you're kind of discrediting all the others. And I think that's just, in my opinion, I think religion was a way to explain the world before science. Yeah. Like you explaining the existence of you, like why you are who you are, your interactions with other people, and explaining it, because humans we're curious people. We're at uni for a reason, obviously, because we want to learn stuff. Yeah. Exactly. Like we want to learn more stuff about the world. We want to, I don't know, for me, it's like, for me personally, it's like to help understand like stuff in the future and stuff like that, and get what work through life, and it's not just a degree to get a job.
No, exactly.
And so like I personally believe that it was a way for them. It was their science of the time. Like, it's a way for them to understand how the world works. And I suppose in a way like that, science is our religion nowadays. You could argue
religion.
You could argue. I suppose you could argue that, but yeah, it was a way. And then it got used to like control people as well, because obviously to control people you have to have fear, and that's pretty much what law is based off. Is kind of based off religion, like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not. Of course, they are inherently not moral things that you wouldn't go around stabbing people or
wetting people up.
Exactly. But like law and things are very much based on that, and so it was then used to like control people and then used like for war and for that, and they're being used for all those things. And I think if there was a God, it wouldn't allow religion to be used for control and be used for war and being used for. And sort of that's why this book had such an effect on me, and that's why I've recommended it to people, and it's the reason why I don't know why I'm an atheist, really.
Nice, man. What if all religion is just explaining the same thing from different perspectives?
Ooh, I suppose you've got there's loads of linkages between religions as well. I mean,
all
like
the Abrahamic religions.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like Jesus is a prophet in Islam, and like you've got, and like obviously like Old Testament is like. Is
the Torah is
exactly the Torah, exactly. And they're all, quite a lot of them are linked, and I mean they all have like kind of sense of morality in them as well.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's, as I said, it's a way of describing the world. So in that sense, it kind of is like a different perspective of different perspectives of the same thing, because you're trying to explain the same world. You're from different parts of the world. They're all different parts of the world. You're explaining like your different like microcosm, like different like microclimate on the
region.
Region, exactly. But at the end of the day, it's the same world, and they all have sort of come together at some point. And they're through like trade routes and things, and like different ideas from different places. And I suppose it kind of is pretty much just explaining things from a different perspective. And if you think we're explaining the same world,
it's like loads and loads and loads of cultures describe the Holy Spirit in different ways. So some of them just say it's like an external force that exists on earth, and other people don't even put a name to it. They just sort of say there's this external thing that you can like tap into. So loads and loads and loads of things describe this one thing, but in different ways. And another thing that's really cool as well, do you know about the tree of life that was in that is in 15 different geographically isolated mythologies. 15. So there's some things that underline most religions or mythologies or sort of origin stories that can't really be denied. And in the Bible, the one unforgivable sin is denying the Holy Spirit's existence. So maybe that's one of the most tangible bits, because if that's the one unforgivable bit, surely that's the most important bit. So there's a lot to consider there, and really a lot to look into. But I'd say anyone curious about religion or spirituality in general, just start asking questions.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
keep asking questions.
I think something that just comes to mind is like the historical accuracies of these texts.
Yeah,
because I mean they were written down by people at some point, and so
a long time
ago. A lot
of
the stuff in there must be like some of it. Like I kind of think that Jesus, obviously, I think he existed as a person, and was just, I don't know, because he's in several different religions this way, he existed as a person, and I don't know, he must have done some like I don't know how I'd explain it, how it's sort of like miracles happened and things, but
maybe he was actually
maybe he was, or I don't know. I don't want to sound like offensive and say like I don't know, maybe, but and say maybe he was like a magician or something, but it's a difficult thing. It's a lot to consider. Like, he was obviously like quite a prominent figure in his time who did some amazing things, and sort of became, in my opinion, a sort of a myth of, well, not a myth, like a legend of a person that sort of evolved into a myth. But at the same time, it's weird to think like it's why like I still have a sort of, I'm not completely atheist. I have a sort of
it's like now
like a sort of a conflict. Like, why would so many people like die for you if they didn't think you were the Messiah? Like all the
so many people have been killed, and a lot of people have been. There's purposely silencing these people. Yeah, and I can get into this another time, but there's certain groups on this planet who I can't mention for obvious reasons, who want to eliminate Christianity. They're not going after any other religion, they're going after Christianity. They're trying to destroy Christianity. Why? Why just Christianity? Why no other religion? you know.
Yeah.
And it's really weird, man. Why would they not go after Buddhism this hard?
I don't know.
What's the reason in that?
I mean, it must be maybe because Christianity is like one of the biggest religions in the world or something, and
but equally there are Islam's
just as big.
So
and
why? So that's because maybe there's some sort of underlying some truth going on, mate.
Maybe,
but it's a lot. Again, it's a lot to consider, and you really just have to keep asking and never close your mind. Never go, never pigeonhole yourself into one thing. Go, I am this label, I am that label. And that's all. It's like no.
Like, as I was saying, like the close people around like Jesus, like the apostles and the disciples and things like that, like they obviously saw these things happening, and then martyred and sort of sacrificed their life for those things.
People
things
are
that they
still
saw.
being crucified for this now.
Yeah,
even in Africa, it's happening right now.
It's true. It's true. Like, it's difficult. I don't know if I'd really have the guts to die for one of my beliefs. I think I'd be too much of a pussy to do something like that, really. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think, man, it's for me personally, I've sort of moved towards Christianity because I came from a sort of like atheist background, and I was never really like exposed to it. Obviously, you had it at like sort of primary school, but I never really went into it that much. I was like, oh, they're chatting shit, to be fair. And then the more I look into it myself, I'm like, whoa, that's mental. Like, I've personally experienced the Holy Spirit. Like, I've actually had this really mad experience happen to me.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was
Describe
like,
it.
So basically, I was at a Christian camp or sort of event in Cornwall, and this guy was on stage like explaining his testimony. So for non sort of religious people, a testimony is just something like where someone explains how they moved to sort of Christ, they moved to God, how that process occurred. And I was listening to that like, yeah, that's really mad. And then they were like, just have a think about what you've done in your life and whether you want to be different. And I was like, actually deep in the shit I'd done in my life, like, whoa, that's mad.
Yeah. And
I don't really want to be that person anymore. And when you open yourself and go, I don't want to be this anymore, I want to change. I said that in my head and out loud. And then basically my friend knew that this was really mad. My friend knew this was going to happen, this whole thing, before it happened. She was like, you're going to go up to this kid and do this. So I'm just like there, like basically a bit emotional because I'm like thinking about stuff. And then this girl comes up to me and goes, can I pray for you? I'm like, well, yeah, of course you can, yeah. And then she starts doing that and she starts saying stuff that I've never said out loud to me. And I was like, what? How do you know that? And then basically I was like, by the end of it, I was like proper in tears. I couldn't control it anymore. I was just overwhelmed with emotion. And then basically what happened is I turned around to go and speak to this kid. And then my other friend was like, where's Alex? Is he where he should be speaking to him? And then she turned around and I was already speaking to him. And like, I was just like basically in tears, shaking, mate. Like I couldn't control anything because certain way this doesn't happen to many people. This sort of direct experience of like the spirit. It only happens with like extremely sort of like spiritually connected people, like people who've like. I'm getting a bit emotional thinking about this now, but like it was just so insane. And it's not the only time it's happened to me, mate. I've had other things occur. So I can understand from someone who's from an atheist background, who's never had any of this stuff happen, why there'd be doubts. Because if it's not happened to you, you know, it's all just words until something occurs.
Get the feeling.
I've had it as well. I did a pilgrimage with my mate from Winchester Cathedral to Canterbury. Wow. So yeah, we literally walked like 150 miles in 5 days just to see if we could, because we're just nutters. Like it was just good fun, enough. Yeah. So we got like the 4th day in, and I was like massively dehydrated and sort of basically starving, and I was near this like bus stop in like Maidstone, which is a place in Kent, and I just had this vision of sort of a dragon being like slain with a sword in my very vivid like image in my head. I was like, what's that? That was really weird. Like, what's that about? And then even to this day, I'm like, I can't really explain that. There's like other things that have happened. Like I've talked previously about sort of when I had this sort of there's experience where I felt I couldn't really move my body when you just is it sleep paralysis?
Yeah.
So like I literally could not move, and then I basically said, like, in Jesus' name, be gone. I said that, and then it just left. But before that, I was like pinned down. So like for me, that's why I sort of subscribe to it, because I've had direct things happen.
You've had things, things that for you are very personally like, part of all of it. Yeah. I mean, I think, because as I said, I was religious, kind of religious before. I mean, like, I've never really had anything like that. Yeah. But like when you go and get like communion in church, and like, you get blessing, like when you're like, you can't really drink the wine.
To get the wine on you.
Like I always found like one of the reasons that I sort of continued being religious for a bit was because like when that happened, like I felt something kind of not to that extent.
Yeah, but still something.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know whether it was just like the feeling of something, because it's quite nice, have someone like touching your forehead. There's something relaxing about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it sort of sends shivers down your sort of face a bit.
Yeah.
But I sort of got that now when I did that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I've never really had anything like that, and I find that's quite interesting. Really.
Yeah, I don't know why it's happened, mate. Because like, what's even more mad about this whole thing is basically one of my very, very close friends now. But I met her by DMing her on Instagram because she did some sort of air cadet thing, and I was like, you know, like that's really cool. That's a really cool sort of cycle. Like it was like really long. And I was like, that's really cool. Like, I just had this like urge to sort of like FaceTime her, like talk to her. I don't even know who she was at this point. It was so weird. And then after that, it sort of like developed sort of a friendship, and we've been friends for like ages. And then last year in summer, she was like, "Come to this thing," and I was like, "All right." So I just did. And I was like, "There's so many specific things that if one of them didn't happen,
it seems like fate."
Predeterminism, mate. What do you think?
Oh, when it comes to fate,
yeah. Are things predetermined or free will? What's the sort of gist there, mate?
I don't know. Is all our life just a storybook that's already been written? For me, I don't think that.
No,
I think people. I don't know. The people. I mean, we're doing it in philosophy at the moment. It's Sartre. It's like you exist. His whole thing is basically like God doesn't exist, so like there's no meaning to men before they're created because there was no one who created them. So there's no meaning to them before they exist. So there's existence before essence, and the essence of man comes from what he makes of it himself.
Yeah. And
so you have sort of your internal freedom to do things, and you should sort of use that freedom and think of the freedom of others sort of for a good reason rather than for a bad reason. And I think humans have. I'd like to think we have free will. I'd like to think that everything's not been written out. Yeah. I'd like to think it would be. I know it would be quite comforting to think, you know, I couldn't. If you did something bad, you couldn't stop that happening because it was always going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know. I think in for me, if I were to think about myself, if I were to think that way, I'd think I think personally it'd be sort of an excuse to sort of all the bad things that you've done. It's not your fault because they were going to happen anyway.
Because you're detaching yourself from your actions.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think like I'm quite in like I kind of agree with sort of Sartre's view of sort of you can control what you do, and you. Maybe not you can control how you feel, but that bit I don't really believe in because he early on
liked some drugs, didn't he, mate?
Yeah, oh God, he did like his drugs. He did like his drugs. No, but
a soundbite there, brilliant.
Yeah. Oh no, so these are going to get used so badly out of context. I know that.
Oh no. Yeah, but yeah, man. No, so much has been talked. We've done so much today. It's been really good. So I don't know what would you finish with? Would you say if you could have a billboard, sort of like a massive poster that everyone in the world would see, sort of a message, an image, what would you want everyone to see and why?
Everyone to see and why? Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take other people's opinions about you too seriously.
Yeah.
Because people, I mean, they can take something like they've seen you. Not directly, but through like other platforms, like for me, like TikTok, like people have probably seen me there and come up to clubs and things and have that sort of predetermined view of me, or hear, you know, like the Eton thing and think, oh, this guy's
Eton
like,
Tom.
exactly.
Eton Tom.
Don't make that a thing.
No, that's not a thing. Don't call him Eton Tom, all right? Don't do it.
They're gonna do it now.
Yeah, that's it.
No, so if you sort of take those things to heart, it damages. Like it
no,
makes
I can imagine. Yeah,
it makes you sort of doubt yourself and things, and not caring too much. It's sort of my whole philosophy. Like, obviously you should care. You should care about things that are important, like your family, your friends, your relationships and things like that, and your work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But things that aren't too deep, don't take them to heart. I think that's what I'd say.
Exactly, man. I could just realise we didn't even talk about TikTok at all. we didn't even talk about TikTok, mate. Mate.
I don't like to shove it at people.
No, mate. I don't know, because just.
We were busy talking about other things.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've run out of time. We've talked about too much cool stuff.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah, man. Right, well, guess you're going to have to wait till part 2 to learn about his TikTok. So, yeah. Anyway, Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. And, yeah, I just want to thank you personally for sharing your insight with our guests.
Hey, It's been a pleasure. I've loved it so much. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Thank you so much, man. Anyway, this has been the Lawless podcast, and we've been joined by Tom. We'll see you in next week's episode. Thank you very much. Goodbye.